Uh, Bonsoir once again, everybody. Welcome. I'm Joe Mistro, again, president of l'Union Française, and we're very excited to welcome you to our third and final installment of the three-part series about the Champagne region of France. It's hard to believe that we've already reached the end, so I'm going to be sad when this ends tonight. So tonight we're going to hear a presentation called Champagne, a Game of Chance, with our wine and champagne expert Margene Miner. And then afterwards, we will have time for questions and discussion. And just one more time, let me go over a couple of Zoom things for you guys. Chat is open, so feel free to use that. And you can ask questions through that, make comments, just interact with each other. During the time for questions later on, you can use the virtual hand raise or just sort of wave wildly at your screen, and I'll try to find you and call on you. And and I think that's it for the Zoom functions. So introduce Margene to you guys. So Margene is a retired educator and financial lending analyst. She's determined to continue to educate herself and others when allowed by completing and having satisfied examiners, and thus being awarded the WSET, which is the Wine and Spirit Education Trust Level 2 Award in Wine and Spirits with merit near distinction under the authority of the trustees by Ian Harris International Wine and Spirits Center in London. Margene plans on continuing for level 3 WSET and earn another button when WSET courses resume in person. So I think that's all we need to say because you guys met her last week. So I'm going to let Margene take over. Floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. And sadly, welcome to our last session. But we get to celebrate this last one with maybe up to 4 bottles. I have my own little spit can, so I'm not going to be able, or I would not be able to finish this. I'd also like to welcome a contingent over in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Welcome, and everyone, here we go. Okay, first of all, and I don't like doing this, I apologize profusely, but I have to do it. I have this wonderful, wonderful book. It's called The Wines of Gala, and it's the verbiage, and of course all the all the plates are Dalí shots. And so this book has a way, and as you listen to what I'm going to read, it's almost like a romanticized description of the process of champagne. And then after we do the kind of beautiful, I mean it, swear to God, there's parts of it that absolutely brings tears to my eyes. It's so beautifully written. And then we'll go into terminology and process. And after we do terminology and process, we'll go into the 4 selections for this evening. So I will start, that's why I have my glasses. I cannot see to read with my glasses. Okay. Garlands and wild parties. Weddings, banquets, dances, and confetti, ceremonies, celebrations, feasts, festivals, festivities, fiesta. Does our world still remember how to celebrate? How prescient after this past year. When we celebrate, joy must be everywhere, but we live in a world of planning, traffic jams, computer printouts. And so I can already see the pessimists pulling long faces, and I would have little to say if I were not able to give them a bottle. A bottle wearing a gold cap, clothed in civility. In a word, a bottle in gala robes. Take off its hood slowly to free the ardor. In the foam of this golden wine, see the pretty young girl, weaving threads of pleasure all around your reason. Just a few bubbles and you will make merry again. Nothing could be more settling than inner merriment. And he goes on. garlands and ceremonies. This is the celebration of a man, you remember from Kristen last week, who blended in his heart the joy of the vine and the celebration of God. Before him, champagne was still. Thanks to him, it has gone mad. Yet Dom Perignon remains discreet, withdrawn, a man whom fame tore away from the monastery's silence was a Benedictine monk. That it was Perignon who discovered blending, the use of cork, again, if you remember from Kristen last week, and the proper time for bottling is in the long run of little importance. Might he not be simply a summation of the work put in by several million wine growers? Might he not merely be the ornament of his own role? Champagne is a work of chance, a triumph of passion, a creation of genius. Does it really matter if Dom Perignon's 3 gestures came together to make the wine? Champagne and poetry. Here is the moment when we taste. Here is the fulfillment of the wish. Here is the feast. Our glass flames and crackles, and the bubbles conjure a great summer festival. Champagne and love, these 2 words are generously entwined. Champagne and love. These 2 wisdoms give us ideas. For without love, there is no being. And that sly wine, whose favorite game is to provoke laughter of friends and lovers, knows it. And I just think that is absolutely a beautiful and festive way to in a capital R, in a romantic way, why there's a mystique around champagne and why we cherish it for our special occasions. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do, when you're looking at a bottle of champagne, or in one case, cava, because cava is also created with the traditional method, Prosecco is not. And you can kind of look at your cost, at your price points on those 3, because you'll see how intricate, time-consuming, and precise the construction of champagne is. Of course, you first start with the must. From the must, which is their squished grapes, you get the base wine. This is your initial fermentation. Usually with your initial fermentation, when the blending is done, you get 2 to 4% alcohol. After that has been, and that can be done a myriad of ways. I mean, it can be in tanks, it can be in barrels, but you have the initial fermentation of the base wine. Then you add sugar and yeast. And again, it's just not Fleischmann's that you pick up off the grocery store. All of these yeasts are, I mean, there are thousands of them, and they're genetically created to create certain flavors, certain experiences. This is called yeast autolysis. And what happens during this period of time, it's usually close to 15 months or a year, the yeast is consumed and the alcohol increases. Then the next step is bottling in those heavy champagne bottles, and they're corked. Depending upon, again, the house, depending upon the process, that is aged for a particular period of time. After it has aged, and of course, the bottles are of course tilted at an angle, and you have during that aging period your secondary fermentation in your bottle. What you have is riddling or gyroplats, we'll do it that turns and turns and turns those bottles, so that at the end of the period of time, you have at the base of that champagne bottle, you have a plug. And that plug is dead yeast cells. And you'll see on a lot of bottles the word lees, L-E-E-S. When you see wines are rested on their lees, that usually will indicate that you're going to have a wine that has, which makes sense, kind of a biscuity, apricot-y kind of taste, because it's actually aged on those dead yeast cells. At a certain point, the base of this, where the cork is, it's flash frozen. The dosage, not the dosage, the plug is removed of the dead yeast cells. And then you have a real discriminating point in time for the champagne, because it gives, again, the champagne maker an opportunity to particularize his champagne. First, you had, of course, particularization with your cuvee or your blend. Then you have you play with what is called, and we talked about it last week, dosage. Now, dosage is added sugar, and it is then usually mixed with not some of the base wine, but almost a very neutral kind of wine. And so that then is inserted into the bottle. The bottle is resealed, and it's ready for final aging or before sent out to be shipped abroad. Now, I will tell you this on the dosage, and this is really interesting, and I encourage you to pull up, I think it was on Wine Folly, because if anybody's watching their weight or their sugar, these dosage amounts are very, very crucial. On a Brut, which you had last week and which you're going to be having tonight, one of them, a Brut has 12 to 7 grams per liter of sugar. And you'll get a corresponding calorie count on that. And Wine Folly will actually give you those calorie counts. A Brut Natura will have 3 to 0 grams of additional sugar in any dosage. And I would really encourage you in your journey and your tasting journey to find a Brut Natura or a low or no dosage wine, because you really get the essence of the grape. Then the Demi-Sec or semi-dec, which we're having tonight, interesting. The Brut we're having 12 to 7 grams of sugar per liter. Your semi-dec has 32 to 50 grams of sugar in your dosage. And the one we're having tonight, my notes are on down, but I believe it's 45 grams. So you can see, how they can play with the dosage. There are basically 4 types of champagnes. Blanc de Noir. Blanc de Noir means more that the champagne is going to be 100% red grapes. Normally, and we had really close to that in the Drapier last week, because we had 80% Pinot and we had, I believe it was 15% Meunier, which is like they call it the quiet workhorse. It's a blending grape that kind of softens, particularly Chardonnay. And then I think we just had 5% Chardonnay. Now, I know a lot of the people that go to L'Union are red wine drinkers. We've experienced that in the past, and I find that really interesting because, Joseph, when you did your survey, you asked people which they like better, the Clicquot or the Drapier. And I double checked then on the makeup on the Clicquot, and it's 47 to 50% Chardonnay. So trust your palate. You see, if you are red wine drinkers and you had a tendency to veer toward the Drapier, that's very, very interesting. Okay, the second style is Blanc de Blanc. And of course, that's all white grapes. So in Champagne, that would be 100% Chardonnay. Then a cuvee, which is what most of champagnes are, is a blend. And then, of course, rosé. And as I said again, and I'll go over it real quickly, just to be exact, Clicquot, 47 Champagne, 36, Pinot Noir, and 17 Meunier. So you can see when you had 80, your primary grape, between 80 and 47 for those 2 grapes, you can see why you really had and you drank it not ice cold, so you really tasted that grape. Okay, the first one that we're going to do tonight is a Crémant. This is Pierre Sparr Crémant. And interesting, most Crémants either come from the Loire or come from Burgundy. And I wanted, yeah, I wanted something kind of different. Oh, you heard that pop? It was a whoop. No, it was perfect. Perfect, Peter. It's a sparkling wine that comes from a designated region using the designated grapes. And where your Drapier or your Clicquot or any of those are going to be roughly 40, starting at around $40. Crémant is kind of the wicked stepmother or stepchild. They're about $16 or $17, sometimes into the 20s. So they're well done, method traditional. They're just not from Champagne. Now this one, I wanted to do one that was a little unusual. You probably had and I haven't tasted these. I did the research and ooh, isn't that pretty? Your Pinot, okay, we're talking about Alsace. This is a Crémant from Alsace. And the primary grape is Pinot Blanc. Now, Pinot Blanc and Chardonnay actually both originated in Burgundy. But of course, you've got different terroir, you've got, and there's a lot of genetic stuff that we won't go into. This particular Crémant is 80% Pinot Blanc. And it talks about, if you look at this kind of closely, if this were more Chardonnay as far as our strong white grape, you wouldn't have as much as almost a golden green. Pinot Blanc produces a more deep golden, and it doesn't have, it has acidity, but it doesn't have some of the, what do I want to say, roughness of some Chardonnays. Now, the interesting thing too about Spar, this originally, this house, and notice I use that because we're going to get to something that was asked last week that I didn't go into too much, but we will tonight because one of the wines that we are serving tonight relates to a question that came up from last week. So this house was originally started in 1680 and is still family owned. You can decide if you think that is important. So let's taste it. Smell it. Yeah. Oh, you wanted to see the bottle. Can you hand me that, Peter? Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Okay, everybody, can you see it? You got it? Pierre Sparr Crémant d'Alsace. Now it's got a big nose. You can really detect a lot of. I get a lot of stone fruit, not as much citric. Okay, let's swirl it a little bit. Isn't that beautiful? There are those bubbles that love and poetry. Here we go. Acidity, but very light minerality. Not a heavy minerality at all. This is really good. This wine, so many of our sparkling wines, they say serve as aperitifs. This wine has enough of a definitive taste that this is excellent to serve with a meal, not just as an aperitif. I personally like to use Clicquot as an aperitif because of the high rate of Chardonnay in it. I like something that I serve with a meal. Now this is white. This is primarily, what are we looking at? It's like primarily Pinot Blanc, like 80%, but Pinot Blanc, and because of the terroir in the way northern Alsace region, gives it a whole different characteristic. Also, it's a sustainable vineyard, and that is something, as I've told you through my different sessions, I really like to choose wines that are sustainable. Okay, our next wine. Oh, I have to throw this out or I'll never make through. Okay, here we go. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, our next wine is going to be one that we dealt with the concept briefly last week. Nicolas Feuillatte. This particular, and it's not a house. There are no vineyards. This is a conglomerate. And that was something that kind of came up, a grower's conglomerate last week. And how did I feel about it? Well, the Feuillatte bought, I think his first name was Nicolas. He bought the first part of his first vineyards in 1980. Very young, very, very recent. He also, his father passed away, and he got a few more acres of prime place in Champagne, prime vineyards in Champagne. But in right, wrong, good, bad, not for me to judge. In 1986, he created and now it is 5,000 different growers. He created a conglomerate. And there is no location. You will never be able to go to a Feuillatte vineyard or a Feuillatte chateau. It does not exist. My guess, he's got pretty nice digs in Paris or someplace, but it's not his chateau. So anyway, this wine then is state of the art, I guess you would say. Stainless steel, gyro plats, and the other thing it is market driven. Again, that's kind of a decision that you want to make yourself. That's fine, but it is the most poured champagne in France. It is the third most poured in the world. And guess who the other two are? They're Moet Chandon and Veuve Clicquot, which also are moving toward a new paradigm in champagne production. So I find that heartening or disheartening. That just depends upon your perspective. Now, I will say too, initially, very interestingly, the marketing concept behind this champagne was that it was going to be lower in acid because it has been known that women buy wine much more than men. So consequently, the wine was designed with less acidity and a little higher dosage. So you'll see I hope when you taste this, it's I don't want to say, I use the word and it's the wrong word to use, like a manipulated wine. There is a purpose other than traditional to create this wine. It's said that this wine was a favorite of Diana Spencer. So it's supposed to be, and your dosage on this has been reduced recently, but originally the dosage on it was like 17 to 15. And now it's about 10 to 11 grams. So let me hold up that bottle. This is the blue label. And why they say Brut Reserve, because because a reserve usually means that it is grown at the chateau of the house. And obviously we know that this is not the case because there's up to 5,000 growers. So they kind of pick and choose. And I don't know, maybe it's the future. Okay.
Margene, let me ask you about that. So how do they get away with that?
I'm sorry, what?
How do they get away with doing that? Because I know that there are tightly controlled regulations. Well, so how did they get
those 5,000 growers are in that region. So it's like, it's very, there's no minerality. You get a lot of green apple. Just a second. Lots of green apple. It's sour, but it's not acidic. This is a citric kind of, you you don't just get acid, you get sour fruit. You definitely get a real strong green apple taste. Tart, one of the descriptions, it's like a lemon tart. You don't think of a lemon tart as being acidy, you think of it being lemony and citric and crisp and clean. This totally different taste than the last one. Totally different taste than the last one. And this is your, and this had, what did I tell you? Let me look at that. Okay, interesting, the grape makeup on this, and it changes a lot because with 5,000 growers, depending upon the crop, whether you got mildew, rain, whatever, it can kind of be, they have a style, but it can be tweaked. Okay, this particular wine, 20% Chardonnay. You might have thought it was more, but you see, you don't get that minerality. You don't get a dryness. You get a tartness. 40% Pinot Noir and 40% Pinot Meunier. So please, when you're buying champagne, go and just put grapes for like whatever one you're trying to, and then you're going to have an idea of what you're going to get. You get the Pinot Noir in this because you can still really taste fruit. You really get that out of it. Okay. No, it doesn't have, one of my people said it doesn't have as big a nose. No, it doesn't. The other one had the biscuity. It rested on its leaves or those dead yeast cells. It had a much bigger taste. Okay, the next one we're going to do, I won't pour it out this time. The next one that we're going to do is the Tattinger, and everyone has, of course, heard of Tattinger. Surprisingly, the Tattinger was the house was only started as a house. It started in 1931. This you can actually go to a vineyard and a chateau, but the original vines and the original original winery was actually as old as 1734. So you're back to something much more traditional than what you just had with the Feuillatte. Now, what we're doing tonight, though, if you look when you buy your Tattinger, this one is Brut La Francais. And what that is, rather than a straight Brut, what it is they draw from 30 different vineyards, 30 different Chardonnay vineyards, 30 different Pinot Noir vineyards for the selection of their grapes. So it's it varies also from year to year. This one I'm anxious to taste because this has been actually, supposedly this particular champagne is supposed to rest, pardon me, please, rest on its lees for 36 months. So we're going to see if we have a real, we have a biscuity, and this is 40, this is very similar to your Clicquot, as a matter of fact, but the difference is it's kind of a different area. This is 40% Chardonnay, and I searched and searched and searched to try to discover what the remaining percentage of grapes were, and they must play with it as much as they can because I could not find a definition. They say balance, you get the silky elegance of a Chardonnay champagne. So let's try this one. This is really good. It has its finish. You get a little tartness, and then your finish is almost like a melon. It's like a soft fruit, maybe a peach. Let that, when you take a taste of this one, let it, of course, fill your whole mouth, but it's very gentle, has a very gentle end finish. So I imagine there's quite a bit of Meunier in this rather than the Noir, because the role of the workhorse of champagne is to really round those edges. And this is absolutely beautiful. Kind of breathe out through your nose so you really get that that melony, that real softness. I don't think I would do this for a meal accompaniment. It's so gentle, but maybe with some endive, with some boursin in it, a real gentle, not with any caviar. But you don't want to miss the finish of this, because it's really beautiful. Okay, and the dosage in this one, 7%. So that is you don't have a Brut Noir. You don't have a Brut Nature. You don't have a low, but you've got a very moderated. Where our other, like with our Drapier, our dosage was 12. So you can kind of if you think about it, you can remember this. I mean, you can see how it comes out in the champagne. I'm not going to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Everybody here really likes the Tattinger.
All right.
La Francais. Okay, the last one we're doing.
All right.
Last one we're. Oh, thank you. I finished that one almost. The last one we're doing is a dupe, and this is a Demi-Sec. This is a Lorem Perrier, and it was interesting because this house was started, and it's still family managed and controlled in 1812. Now this particular dosage is, like I said, 45% is the dosage. So I would recommend, this is probably going to taste a little sweeter than it is, because we just had the Laurent that was a little bit tart. So that's always going to, and I love doing, that's why we set them up back here, doing like a flight, because then if you take water or a water cracker and kind of clean your palate, then you get you can really kind of compare them. And when I drink any wine, I try to go someplace in my head. Ooh, that's beautiful. It's much lighter. See how much lighter that is? Our others were quite yellow. This is a lot lighter. Look at those bubbles. This is 45% Chardonnay, 40% Noir, and then our 15% of our workhorse. Again, this was, they have been, in fact, they're one of the few vintners, they have been making Demi-Sec, which has not been popular. The world and the markets have moved toward Brut as opposed to sweeter wines. And so let's see what we have. Very light nose. This is very good. I wish somebody would taste this and help me. It's not melon. It's not melon at the end. It's like almost like a jasmine or a gardenia. You get a very floral almost finish. Honeysuckle, yeah. That is really nice. It's not sweet.
It's kind of a big floral.
Oh, it is definitely a big floral. And here is the Laurent Demi-Sec. Now, what I'm having tonight with it for dessert is we're going to have strawberry shortcake. And I intentionally did not overly sweeten the strawberries. I used a little orange juice and cognac to kind of macerate it. And yeah, this is quite nice.
I like this.
I do too. After dinner with I'm trying to think of pears with maybe a little bit of boursin or something like that, would be something that would be just really, really, this is delightful. And it's a shame that we have almost a prejudice in the United States in some ways against sweet wines. This is not sweet. The next would be much sweeter. This is called semi-sweet or semi-dry. It's really, and I encourage you, first of all, I would encourage you to try this if you didn't buy it tonight. Don't say, I don't like sweet wines. This is not a sweet wine.
I don't like sweet wine.
It's a delightful Demi-Sec. I would also encourage you, if you didn't, when you have a chance or if you have people over, to compare the Feuillatte with the Tattinger and just see what your opinions are. And I hope I answered that question with regard to growers a little bit more completely. If we're going that way, but you know, a lot of it is marketing, and we know Moet Chandon and Clicquot and Feuillatte, the power of the marketplace. One thing that you'd asked me to do, and I have small hands, so I can't do it. When you technically open a bottle of champagne, and Peter has done this for me, you'll see in the bottom of the champagne bottle, you have an indentation. And technically, if I were pursuing sommelier, which I'm not, I'm doing WSET because I'm not ever going to do service. You take a hold, when you open it, you take a hold and you actually put your fingers in and hold the bottle of champagne like this, hold on to the cork after you've removed the shield, and you turn the bottle. My hand is too small to do that well, but that technically is how you should open a bottle of champagne. So if there are any questions, I'm going to close again with this quote that I absolutely love. Champagne and poetry, here is the moment when we taste. Here is the fulfillment of the wish. Here is the feast. Our glass flames and crackles, and the bubbles conjure a great summer festival. Champagne and love, these two words are generously entwined. Champagne and love, these two wisdoms give us ideas, for without love, there is no being. And that sly wine, whose favorite game is to provoke the laughter of friends, which I think we have done tonight, and lovers, well, we won't go there, knows it. So adieu, and if you have any questions, and I think there's some chats, some surveys that Joseph is going to do, and anything I can answer, I will. Thank you. Enjoy the champagne.
Thank you, Margene.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
God, I loved watching you.
Thank you.
It's so delightful to get your reactions, like your honest reaction as it's going on.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, I've learned a lot, and I'm sure everybody else has too. If anybody has any questions or just wants to comment on what you thought of the different ones tonight, we'd love to hear it, because I know people taste things differently. Not everybody's going to taste it.
Absolutely.
And so you might not have tasted it exactly like Margene did. So I'm curious to know people's comments. So feel free to raise your hand, put it in the chat. We'd love to hear what you have to say. I will say that we do have a comment from Karen Leatham in the chat, and she highly recommends the Tattinger tour in Reims. So yeah, I would, Karen, if you want to talk about it, we'd love to hear from you to give us a little bit about information about what you think about it.
Okay, I'll talk about it. I had arranged for the tour and then almost didn't go on it because I forgot to make my TGV reservation. And if you don't do it ahead of time, then it's really expensive. And then I thought, well, do we lose the whatever price it is that we reserve for the tour, or do we just spend the money and go? And I'm so glad we went. It was it was in July. So it was a
Hmm.
really hot summer day, which is a great time to go in those really cold underground cellars. And, it's a little corporate. They, put you in an auditorium, they run a film, but it's very well done. And you choose a tour with a certain number of tastings at the end. You pay whatever it is that you want. I think we got one extra than the standard. But the cellars are beautiful. They do a really good job of it. And then you have a really nice tasting at the end. I really enjoyed it and was really happy that we went and enjoyed seeing Reims and the cathedral, the Joan of Arc statue, and we went to a delightful little lunch spot where they served champagne that you've never heard of, and with a very congenial host who seated you, went to the back to prepare the food, came and served. And it was just a really fun day. And next time I go to Paris, I want to go spend 3-4 days in France and maybe go to Epernay, because it was really fun. And they have all these champagne bars, and you see, these ridiculously low prices on the boards outside. I hope we can all travel there someday soon.
Here,
So-
here.
Completely agree, Karen. So when I've been in Paris before, I've entertained the idea of taking the TGV just for a day in the Champagne and going to Reims. So is that what you did? Y'all just went for the day?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's so doable. But in fact, recently we spent, the better part of a morning fantasizing about France and looking at Airbnb. And there are so many there that are very nice. So, but yeah, I just went for the day from Paris, and it was a wonderful day, and it made me want to go back.
Yeah, I think we should all go. Let's all go and go and have maybe a week together in Reims.
Field trip.
Yeah.
That's the thing that with the new style of the conglomerates, you don't have even the opportunity for that kind of experience, and I think that's a real loss.
Yeah. My husband's reminding me of if you don't make it to Reims, there's this great champagne store and bar in Paris called Dilettante, and they have all these special events, and we've been there now several times. It's great to go shopping there, but you can have a tasting. But also, once a month, they have a champagne vintner come in and talk about his product. And that's really a fun thing to do. And I've enjoyed going there. So if you don't make it to Reims, Dilettante, which is on the left bank, is a really, really great store to visit and do tastings at.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you. Margene, we have a question.
Yeah, I see that.
So the first champagne, or it was not really a champagne, it was
That is correct.
Alsace. So can you talk a little bit about that? So I know we've all seen this on bottles like Crémant de Burgundy and stuff like that, Bourgogne and stuff like that. So one from Alsace. And so can you tell us, besides it not being from the Champagne region specifically, are there any other differences?
Well, not particularly, no. Let's let it, we all heard these maxims when we were in school. A Crémant and Champagne, they both can be Brut, but all Bruts are not Crémant and Champagne, because Crémant is not from Champagne. Crémant can be Brut relative to the amount of dosage, how it is created. And really about the only way that the best way, not the only, best way to discover how dry or how much dosage is in a Crémant, which is a sparkling wine from a designated French area that uses and follows all of the regulations and guidelines in its creation. So the only way to tell if it's going to be Brut or if it's going to be Brut Natura or is to Google and find, because usually you don't find it on the bottle. It will tell you based upon the dosage. So Crémant, sparkling wine, designated French area, following all the rules with designated grapes that are indicative to that area. A Crémant can be Brut, but all Bruts are not Crémant.
And I think also, right, you can get a really good Crémant for a lower price than.
Oh, much, oh, much.
So it's a good option for if you're looking for something on a budget.
Absolutely. And speaking of budget options, I just cannot help but thank Ben at the wine cellar. He did some really remarkable things to facilitate this tasting, and he is just really a super guy. And thank you, Ben. I know you're not there, but we really appreciate him a lot at L'Union.
Looks like Fran and Bob started with something different tonight. Fran, would you like to talk about what you started with tonight? So she says in the chat, she started with a sparkling rosé from Provence, Veuve Olivier, and it was delicious. So Margene, tell us about some of this. So, you know, we're seeing a lot of sparkling rosés. That's become a popular thing now.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
It's very interesting. With a regular rosé, if you're having a still rosé wine, we know that when a rosé wine is made, it can be Syrah, it can be Grenache, it can be 90 or 100% red grapes. It has nothing to do with it. A lot of people think, well, you pour a little red in, you pour a little white in, you get a rosé. But it comes to, it relates to the fermentation and how long or if or when you leave the skins on the grape, because it's actually the grape skins. You peel away those grapes, they're all the same thing underneath. So as long as you leave it on with the grapes and the musk with the skins, then you get you can get a rosé depending upon your time and your grape and everything else. Now, champagne rosé, and I've read two different things, and I've tried to do a little bit more research. It isn't like that. Actually, there is added. Now, I've read two websites, and I've studied in my WSET, and it doesn't go into it again at all. But you'll see the rosé champagnes are even more expensive. Maybe not a lot, but they're usually several dollars more. And basically because there's a whole additional step in the production of the rosé. So you have your cuvée, and you've gone through your initial fermentation, and you've gone through your secondary fermentation. And at a certain point, according to several vintners, actually red wine is inserted. Actually, it is inserted into the bottle before final fermentation. I don't know whether that is what is done universally or whether that is relative to certain houses, but it actually is like another step where, unlike you know, a rosé still wine, it's simply the process of the fermentation, leaving the skins on for a period of time, which is why you can have a Syrah Grenache kind of still wine, which is to our big red wines, but you still can get a rosé from it.
I think this would be a good time to, we're going to put up a poll and see what everybody thinks about the champagnes tonight and which one did you guys prefer. So I'm going to go ahead and.
Can I say one thing? If we could say maybe not the things about the wines that we had tonight, particularly with the last one, Laurent, it has it's hard to choose because every wine has a profile that is relative to the imbiber or the participant, and it also relates to what if we had had this like we would have if we were at Sacred Heart, we would have been eating some things in the process also, and tasting, say, triple creams or tasting fruit, and that would so enhance and change our experience. So maybe if we could also do one, if it's possible, Joseph, what was, I don't want to say the most interesting, I can't even think of another word, but one that you wouldn't have think you would have tried or something, you know what I'm saying? Something like that to kind of get a biggest surprise. That's a good one. What was maybe the biggest kind of surprise or aha moment versus some of these? I don't know how you want to do it, but that's, it's hard to just say, I like with this one best without putting it in a context.
Absolutely. So I'm going to launch this poll that's set up, and it's going to say, what is your favorite champagne? So let's do that. And then we can maybe talk about them in
savory foods, huh? Did I try it with savory food?
Say what's surprising about them and why. Okay, so the poll is up for you guys to vote. And you can vote for more than one. So if there's more than one of you there, you can vote multiple times. Or choose more than one option before you click your vote button, actually.
The other thing is if they tasted all four, and that would kind of impact the, you know what I'm saying? Not everybody maybe bought all four.
I agree, yeah, and I'm guessing that a lot probably didn't. So this is just, you know, this is not an official poll. We're just gauging interest. See what people said. So it looks like
interesting.
The Spar, people really liked it. Also the Feuillatte and the Tattinger, and then less the Demi-Sec. But
yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I also wonder if part of the reason for that is because perhaps people didn't get that one. I don't know. There's no way to know. But I just would encourage you to try it if you didn't get it. It's the Demi-Sec. It's just really a delightful experience. It's different than any of the others.
Karen asked, would you try the Demi-Sec with savory foods?
Oh, thank you, Karen. She liked the Demi-Sec a lot. Savory. Let me think a second. I'm trying to think. I would maybe if after dinner, not with dessert, I would like to experience it. I don't know if I do savory. I don't know. That's kind of, I'm trying to think peppery, not sure. Then I'm trying to think of some herbs like rosemary, thyme. I can see maybe something with a little thyme on it, perhaps. Or, oh, you know what I had the other night? I had a truffle honey. And I'm wondering if you used a truffle honey over a triple cream with this. I might try this. I'm not sure. I think I just have to experiment with. I can't wrap my mind around that. Wish I could.
Yeah, Karen's wondering if you could do it with
Comté
or goat cheese.
I don't think goat cheese, only because of the sourness. Maybe the Comté, maybe so, because that's gonna have, yeah, I can, that maybe with some apples.
And speaking of food, Margene,
Yeah.
what was this delicious menu that you're having tonight at your house?
Oh, tonight?
And
Okay, it's interesting. Karen's question too. I've got 2 triple creams that I'm going to serve. We're going to have that in a little bit, probably with the Crémant because of the tartness. And then I fixed sea scallops, or will fix them, with a burnt butter And then I've got the big shrimp that are about this big. And I'm going to do that in the same way. And then I've got a friend brought over some cashews and a broccoli salad. And then for dessert with the Demi-Sec, I'm doing just a wonderful strawberries, panchatula strawberries with a little cognac and orange juice that I've macerated them in over just a pound cake. And then I'm going to try this, and this might kind of get to what you're saying. I'll try it. I found a recipe for a pork tenderloin, and it marinated a day and a half in tarragon, garlic, orange juice, and jalapeno. And I've had pardon me, and I've had that in the oven for about 3 hours, and I'm going to see if that will work. Probably with the conglomerate or the Tattinger because of the acidity. Of course, it's a loin, so there's not a lot of fat. So we're kind of playing with it too.
Fran and Bob said they have 6 people at their house, and it's
Awesome.
a split vote between the Spar and the Tattinger.
Yeah, and you know. I would just be curious, of those 6 people, who are more red wine drinkers and who are more white wine drinkers, just if there's any correlation there at all.
Fran, if you want to tell us, you're welcome to, or if you want to type it in the chat, either way.
Bob says he prefers beer. We're going to kick him out. We're kicking him out.
That's
okay,
fine.
How many of you all are white wine drinkers over red?
All right.
Who
Well, you
prefers
see, and
red?
that explains
No,
it. Because
they prefer red wine, Margene.
how many of the 6?
Well, we got 1 beer drinker, we got 4 red wine drinkers, and
Okay.
one who prefers rosé.
Oh, okay. That's interesting because both the Tattinger and the Spar particular is 80% Pinot Blanc. It's all white. Maybe it's that crispness and acidity that if you're if you like burgundies or you like drier reds, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Also, we had a question from the crowd, which is, how long have you been doing this?
Oh, this is interesting. I've got to tell you this story. Actually, probably about 5 years, maybe now. After I have always, when I was about 5 years old, I had my own barbecue in my backyard in Illinois, and I love food and beverage. I was not drinking wine at 5 years old, but I was enjoying serving people and seeing people enjoy food. And I got involved with L'Union through Karen, and it just kind of developed. And I decided 2 years ago I wanted to learn, because to me, food and wine are about life and about celebration. And that's why this spoke to me so much, what was written in the Gala. It's you can slug something, or you can sit with people and friends and enjoy meals and drink wonderful things. And that's just, for me, and I wanted to learn about doing that, and to hope that people could become self-aware of what really was the best for them, what their palate said. Somebody can tell you something, but it's all about your palate. And that's what's important, not right, wrong, good, bad. It's just what is wonderful to you and makes you happy and makes you enjoy whatever you're doing more.
We have one final poll that I have ready for everybody. And this is kind of going off of what Karen shared earlier. So I'm curious to know if who else has visited the Champagne region, and who's ready to go. So I'm in the ready to go category.
But not to Nicolas's conglomerate. There is no place. Isn't that kind of sad?
That is sad.
It is. And it's the top seller. Is this indicative of whatever?
Yeah, well, maybe,
I know, maybe, yeah.
maybe. Are there still a few small houses that one can visit?
Oh,
know,
yes.
smaller-
Oh, yes. And Kiko, even though it's a conglomerate, I mean, it's masterfully done.
Oh, so you would recommend their tour?
I would recommend doing some research into, I guess, what you wanted to experience and then finding those houses.
Okay. And it looks like from our group tonight, about half have,
Half and half, yeah.
so yeah. If anybody has any suggestions or experiences, we'd love to hear from you. I see
The Mercy, oh, okay.
Nicolas is there. I'm sure they have probably been. And I see that they have tried a couple of bottles tonight. If you want to share your experiences, love to hear. Oh, they actually typed the Mercier tour was.
I saw that, yeah.
Okay, nice. Awesome. That's a good recommendation next time. Margene, have you
Yes.
done all of these Champagne House tours in Champagne?
Oh, I wish. No, I have not. If I were doing some, which we hope to do in a couple of years, we've done the Chardonnay, we've done the Loire area, and we've done some Burgundy areas, but I have not gone to Champagne. And after doing this, I'm really looking for, in fact, my husband back there said that's definitely what's going to be on our schedule for our next trip to France. Definitely.
Perfect. I don't see where you can go wrong, for sure.
I've got to tell you that one of the most wonderful and simple meals that I've ever had, we went to a very small chateau in the Loire Valley. Yeah, he's going, And we had with our meal, we had some Cab Franc. We had a little bit of Chardonnay. We had all their own small production, and a roasted chicken and some fresh vegetables and a wonderful vinaigrette. And we sat in a barn basically with chickens outside, and it was a wonderful experience. So it's not just about a big house or a big chateau. It's about the whole experience and people who love what they've created and want to share it with others.
Thank you very much. Last call for questions. If anybody has any last questions that you want to ask, please let us know. It looks like we have the Simons.
Yes, the crowd over here thinks Margene is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastique. And they would like to know, Margene, is your name French? How did you get your name?
No. Thank you for asking that. My name's really special to me. First of all, I guess everybody has mothers-in-law. My mother's mother-in-law wanted me to be Margaret after my mother-in-law's favorite cousin. Now, it wasn't that my mother didn't love my mother-in-law, but Maida Salome Sundermeyer was my mother's mother-in-law's name, and she always had an opinion. So my mom and my dad decided they weren't going to go with Margaret Ann. So my mother's first name was Marjorie. My father's first name was Eugene. So they put it together. So I'm Margene Ann instead of Margaret Ann. So thank you for asking.
That's a great story. I love it.
Everybody hears Margie because Margene is a rather unusual name, but it's Margene because it's a combination of my parents' name.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing this Champagne journey with us. I know I am very sad that this is the last
Me too.
end of it, but it's only the end of these classes. Your Champagne journeys will all continue. So keep on trying new ones.
Please.
making it a social event. That's what it is. That's what it should be, just as the beautiful poem that Margene read earlier today. Yeah, that's what.
Let's do this again. I see that down.
Again, but we're going to do it in Reims. So everybody read,
Oh.
and we can all. So just a couple of quick announcements. We hope to have another culture class series in the fall, and those should be back in person, so we can all do these tastings in person. Also, I wanted to let everybody know that this series, we have recordings, and so they're all on our website. You can watch the past 2 sessions, and then this one will go up on our website tomorrow in case you missed something that Margene said and you want to just recreate the tasting. You can do it in your living room.
And Joseph, thank you. You've been amazing.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. And L'Union Française will be starting a new session of summer classes, French language classes, and some more on the cultural side too. We're going to have a class this summer on tarot cards. We're going to have a French cinema class and another class about mythical French couples. So check that out. Those listings will be on our website in around May 10th. We'll start registration for our summer session, which will be run from June 7th through the end of July. And you can find that at l'unionfrancaise.org or on our social media. And I would like to thank everybody here for attending. Thank you guys for coming and supporting us, for supporting the wine cellar with these purchases. Keep checking them out. Ben always has a great selection there and some fun new things to try. I want to thank Karen Walk again for organizing this. So big thanks to her. And thank you to everyone. We appreciate it. And I think it's a fitting time to end. I'm sitting here in my home uptown and it's now started to rain. So perfect timing. So bonsoir,
Bonsoir.
and merci à tous. À bientôt.
Bientôt.